Welcome to the broadcast. This is Where Life Meets Music, here at On Deck Sound Studio. Jimi Bell is here. The Connecticut native began building on his fan base in the early 80s with Joined Forces and the Bell Attack. Jimi will correct me forthcoming if I'm mistaken on the date. However, I believe it was August 27th of last year. Jimi's guitar expertise had him taking his place in Autograph. And I am pleased to be joined for the first time by Jimi Bell, my friend, and welcome. Nice to have you here. Thank you for
Lich,
doing this.
This is a big thrill for me, more than it is for you, trust me.
It's a thrill for me with a capital T, my friend, I got to tell you. 30 years of guitar playing. When you think about being relevant, when you think about timeless guitar playing, how did it all come together for you that you can continue moving forward in time and your playing, but be true to yourself?
I have a passion for guitar like no other. I mean, it's just something that I was born with. I, from the second somebody left a guitar, I was a drummer first. And I was jamming with some high school people. I was in junior high. And the guitar player left his guitar out against the amplifier. And after they left, I picked it up. It was in the 70s. And he had an old Big Muff fuzz box, and I took that thing, turned it on. And of course, I'm left-handed, but it was a righty guitar. And I kind of held it. I turned it on. I hit the low E string with the fuzz on. And I just lost my mind. I said, oh my God, this is what I want to do. I love this. And I had a drum scholarship at the time from the Hartford Conservatory of Music. Literally within 3 months, I gave up the scholarship and I told my dad, I said, I need a guitar. And ever since that time, the guitar has never left my hands. I didn't have many friends in school. I was, pretty much a loner. And that worked out to my advantage because all I did was sit in my room from the second I got home from school and played guitar till I went to bed. I would wake up in the morning before I went and grab the guitar and play it. It's the love. You have to have the love for the instrument, in which I've had all my life. It's just, it's never stopped.
When you think about integrity, as time moves on, some people stay as they were. Some people think to get a bigger audience, one has to do this. But to be true to yourself, as I just mentioned, the integrity as a musician, as an artist is.
Well, honestly, the integrity for me has so much to do with, the passion of playing music. You have to I love performing for people. It's like everything in the world for me. I've always loved to be on stage and performing. And I just, when you've done it as so many years like I have, it's just one of these things that I just can't get away from, and I would never want to be away from it. I have to say that I don't even know what I would do if I wasn't playing guitar. It's one of these things that just has been with me for so long. I've dabbled in other things, but it's always just been about the guitar. You have to have the love, the drive, and it's just what I do.
You touched upon performing. You're talking about playing. I want to factor into the equation the crafting of music. It's going to be difficult to put this in any particular order.
Okay.
But speak to, what do you enjoy the most? What fulfills you the most? Would it be the composition part of it, putting the thought together, coming together with the song itself? Is it in the studio, or is it the ultimate of playing?
Well, that's a great question, because each part of that gives you certain highs. Like, so many times I write a lot of music. Like with House of Lords, I write a real good amount of the music. And I collaborate, with I did with my drummer BJ Zampa. I would write a whole song basically, and then I would go to him and say, "What do you think of this?" And he would say, "Oh, that's great," or he'd say, let's move this." We rearrange it before we would send it down. But I love writing songs because it's it's just a very cool thing to be sitting and playing. And I don't sit down purposely to write a song. I'll be just playing, and all of a sudden I'll hit something, and then I start going with it. I'll do like an intro and then a verse, and then I'll put these things together. Just music. I don't write lyrics. So that gives me great satisfaction. And then, when you go into the studio and you complete it and you hear everything, once we would send it down to where James lived in Florida, and he would sing on it, and you get the song back, you go, wow, this is great. It's a great feeling, a great accomplishment. But there's nothing like performing on stage. There's just something about it, especially when there's, unfortunately, the circumstances are so different at the moment. But, when you're up on stage and you got thousands of people in front of you, or even smaller crowds, there's just the feeling you get when you're connecting with the audience and you see them, going crazy for what you're doing. That's really, to me, that's amazing.
The approach then, as a guitar player, having been in the studio myself and of course on the road with jazz bands, the approach to the instrument in the studio and the approach to the instrument on stage for you is?
Totally different.
Please.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in the studio, when I record, especially my solos, I have to really, put more thought process into what I'm playing. When I'm recording a solo, I want to try to work it out. And you're very locked into what you're doing. Live, that's the great thing about performing live. It gives you a chance to expand your abilities and try different things. I do that a lot. Many times I've taken a solo section, like doing a song live, and I'll try something different in it. Sometimes it's great. It could be a hit or miss situation, but that's the best thing about it. It's live. You're feeding off the energy. Like when you're feeding off the audience and your whole, energy is going, you want to rip into something a little bit more elaborate. Well, you go for it. Right. And if it doesn't work, then you go, oh, well, maybe I should have stuck to the original thing. But
when we think about the recording industry, you and I know it has morphed into the evolutionary process has changed so much in the course of decades and decades. It's not the same as we knew it before. How for you has the music industry changed? How has it diminished?
Well, record deals, number one, that's, pretty much out the door.
You don't even make your money really. You make your money on touring, I suspect.
Yeah. For example, House of Lords, we're with Frontier Records, and they're a very big label in Europe, like the biggest label. Every 80s band is on that label. That's, we'll get an advance, some money for doing the record. And, you do a lot of work. Basically, you're doing a lot of work for not as much money as what you should be getting. But once again, if you're in this business to make money, if that's your mindset, then you shouldn't be in this business. Right. It's not about money. It's like, this music business is about you love music so much that you don't really care. It's like, it's about playing. It's about recording. It's about performing. It's your heart.
It's all you know how to do.
Exactly.
Or really want to do.
Yeah. I started, like I said, I've been performing out live actually longer than 30 years. I started performing at 15 in a club. You know, my first gig, you'll laugh, was a strip bar. It was, I had to get a note from my parents to play this club. They had dancers during the day and music at night. And it was one of these things that was, you know, once the first time I ever stepped on stage, I was hooked forever. It was never about money for me. I mean, making money is great. I mean, if you do a gig and it's a good paying gig and, you get handed a bunch of cash or a nice big check afterwards, that's a great feeling. But like I said, if you're in music to make money, then it shouldn't be about that.
Not just for you, for all guitarists around the world, for all guitar aficionados. Who's the one person, the one guitarist in your estimation that speaks to everyone?
Oh man. Oh, you're asking me. That's a tough one because everybody has so many different influences. Like if I say one guy, I can only go by, I'll tell you what influenced me. I had three guys that spoke to me heavily in my career: Johnny Winter, Richie Blackmore, and Al Di Meola, who you're familiar with all of them.
Of course.
Those three spoke volumes to me in my career. Johnny Winter was my first. Johnny Winter was the record that was on the record player when the guys left the house, and I picked up that guy's guitar for the first time. The first Johnny Winter and album with Rick Derringer. It was a live album, Johnny Winter and. I put that record on and heard Johnny's doing "It's My Own Fault," and I just lost it. The guitar playing that he did. Johnny is a blues player, but yet he had a lot of fire to him. And for some reason, which is not true, but for some reason in my early days, I thought in order to be a good guitar player, you had to be a fast guitar player because I heard guitar players ripping up and down a guitar neck. So I said, you have to be a fast player to be good. Now, obviously that's not true, but that's what I was drawn to. When I heard somebody do something quick on a guitar, I go, "Oh my God, that's so cool!"
Well, like Al.
Yeah. Oh my.
You mentioned Al. It's like that.
Well,
that's technique blazing.
Well, there you go, right there. Perfect example. Like I learned a lot of my blues stuff from Johnny. Then I discovered Richie Blackmore, and I got into that style of music. However, once I discovered Al Di Meola and his picking technique, that's what changed my whole approach to guitar playing. I've been one of these guys, I'm a perfectionist, call it OCD or whatever you want to call it, but I'm just
my OCD has OCD,
yeah,
so
yeah,
I know.
Exactly. I mean, I have to make sure this hand and this hand lock in absolutely 100% when you're doing something. And Al Di Meola just did that. Now there was John McLaughlin.
Oh.
He was, unbelievable. There were a lot of players doing that, but there was something about Al Di Meola, especially when I first heard him with Chick Corea, and then when he went solo on his own.
Yes.
That technique and his playing just like really stuck with me. So, I had developed this style of playing in the early 80s, way before there was, before Yngwie Malmsteen had hit the scene. Before he had hit the U.S. scene. I'm sorry, he was, big in Sweden.
Yes.
Everybody knew him over there.
Yes.
But so in fact, when Alcatraz first came out and Yngwie was playing, I had people calling me and go, "Jimmy, are you in this band Alcatraz?" Because they thought it was me playing guitar because Yngwie was doing a lot of scale work. That was kind of unheard of back then, that early on, And I guess my dedication and my love for the guitar, that's what kind of helped build my popularity back in the early days, in the early 80s, because even though there were players that were doing that, there was only a fistful, Nowadays, every player's,
But Jimmy, I got to take a bow to you because if you're looking at guys like Pat Martino, if you're looking at guys like Al Di Meola, these are guys lucid, fluid, technically proficient I mean, lightning on the guitar neck.
Oh my
But
God.
they're lucid, they're fluid. There's feeling and there's technique.
And melody.
Precisely.
Yeah. It's a very important you and honestly, in my early days, when you're just putting everything together and you don't have your style down yet, but you know what you want to do, but you haven't come around yet, you're just playing a lot of notes and this and that. And years ago, people used to say, oh, Jimmy's, great player, but he's, all he does is play fast and this and that, so you used to get, you take the criticism and you learn from it. I always learn from what people have to say. And nowadays what you do is you try to combine everything. Like I told you prior, I dabble in everything, country guitar players, Albert Lee, Brent Mason, all these cats that are incredible country players. I love jazz players, swing players,
That's great.
Brian Stetzer, that whole rockabilly.
So then let's stay with that. Let's stay with this whole topic right now. When we think about the landscape of guitar players, and there's somebody out there who doesn't have to have a lot to say here, but has to have a lot to say here, who doesn't have to prove anything anymore.
Who doesn't?
Right. Who has a lot to say, but doesn't need to prove anything.
As you mean,
in their playing.
In their playing? Well, wow, man, that's a great question. I would have to think about that one for a while. I would. No, because there's
part two when we come back.
Yeah,
into another part.
There's a bunch of guys that, I find the people that really are the best, they're not really that vocal about certain things. It's like
their playing says it all.
Yeah, their playing does. Their playing speaks volumes. We talked a little bit prior about keeping yourself in check, ego-wise and stuff like that. And like I said, I've never had an ego. I've always I appreciate every guitar player that's out there. I think everybody's a good guitar player. I could go into a music store and watch some kid that barely could play, and he's playing, like you go in a Guitar Center, all these guys are playing on 10 in the music store, and I'll be walking by, and then all of a sudden, that person that could barely play all of a sudden does something that makes my head turn like this. And it's like you go, wow, that was really good, So to me, everybody has something to offer. You could learn from everybody out there. So if you try to just focus on one person, or you say, you can't possibly say this guy is the best guitar player in the world. Because that you're
what
taking,
does the best mean? What does the best
yeah? What
mean?
is the best? What the best for rock? The best for jazz? The best for country? What is
technical prowess? Somebody who's got the blues in their veins.
Yeah,
and that's such a difficult.
Yeah,
question.
It is.
I agree.
There's a lot of there's so many ways to look at guitar playing. I'll tell you this honestly. Like I said, I've posted videos and you talk about technique, like I do, honestly, I do a lot of technique stuff, but then every once in a while, some guy will make a comment. Oh, what's his name could play, say more with one note than playing all those notes. Well, true. You can't say that, you can't compare an Yngwie Malmsteen or Richie Blackmore to a B.B. King. It's a whole different genre of music. And each one of those guys is so well respected in their own right, So for one person to say, this guy's the best guitar player in the world, you're limiting yourself very much.
From playing to sitting down and actually talking with another guitarist. If Jimi Bell could take one guitarist, whether with us today or has moved on, and ask one particular question, who would the guitar player be, and what would be your question you want to know? We're not going to pick up the instrument. We're just going to talk music.
Well, it actually happened to me in real life. So I'll tell you who it was. Les Paul.
Les Paul. I did an interview a couple of times with Steve Miller. You know what Steve Miller and Les Paul had together.
Yes.
Great relationship.
Yeah. I was with once again, we're talking about the 80s. I was with the Kramer Guitar Company, and I was hanging with the president, Dennis Berardi. They were going to do a big push with me, so we were hanging out. I was hanging a lot with him. We were at a Bon Jovi concert in New Jersey, and we had backstage stuff, of course, because Richie Sambora was an endorsee of Kramer, and Les Paul was there. So I'm backstage with Les Paul, and afterwards we all went to dinner together. Now it was, a thrill enough for me to even have just met Les Paul for a second backstage and then to say hello to him. And I have a nice photo of him and I together with my hair all spiked out from the 80s. But then we went out to dinner together. And honestly, I had so much I wanted to ask him. And when we sat at the dinner table, I couldn't get the words out that I wanted to say. I wanted to ask him about, all his early days with Mary Ford, his
How High the
work
Moon
with
and
the
stuff like-
his work with the Echoplex and how he created that. And honestly, his technique was just off the hook, and all those things that I had wanted to say, just not one of them came out, So if I could go back and really ask him those questions, I would. Of course, my other one would be Richie Blackmore. He was such a big influence on me, and I know he's still around. And I would love to just, there's certain people I would love to just sit with and say, I know you don't, if you don't want to, talk with me, I understand, but I just want you to know what you did for me.
We know his personality, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I just want to say, there's so many guitar players I'd like to go up that I wouldn't want to bother. I just want to say, I just want you to know what your music and what you're playing did to my life.
Jimmy, when I say the word rebirth in terms of your artistry, what do you think?
Rebirth. Wow. Man, I don't know, Lich. That would be
What I mean by that is so many musicians look at something in terms of a cyclic existence. It just keeps going around and around and around. And then there are some of those who learn from the past. They learn from out of all negativity, some positive can come.
well.
So there is a rebirth in some ways. We learn from our past, both positive and negative. So when I say Jimi Bell, 30 plus years of your instrument, 30 plus years of playing, of writing, of being on stage, of talking to people. And I told you how much of a perfect gentleman, a consummate professional you are. So having said all that, there's still a rebirth. Your consciousness keeps moving forward. And with that,
Yeah.
when I say consciousness in terms of your artistry, you think what?
Well, honestly, like I believe I even told you a little bit. I try to keep bettering myself all the time. This is not. I didn't like fall into one category and just say, okay, I learned this style. I'm happy with this. This is all I want to do. No room for growth for me here. I hear all kinds of different things. A classical piece, a jazz piece, anything that makes my ear go like this. It could be even an opera piece, a beautiful melody and an opera thing. I just want to learn. I'm still a sponge. I don't know if you get that, but it constantly. I want to keep growing as a guitar player because to me, there's so much more I could learn, and I want to keep going with it.
Then let's move forward with that thought. There's always more on the horizon. There's always more forthcoming. Let's look at it as if my work, your work, our best work is still in front of us. We've yet to reach our potential.
Exactly.
So with that, what's on the musical horizon for Jimi Bell? What's in the future? What do you hope to see that's in your mind's eyes right now that you want to make reality?
Well, honestly, as you know, I had the honor of joining Autograph a little over a year ago.
August 27th?
Yeah, August 27th. That was my first show, but I actually, joined him slightly earlier. But, I like working with great musicians, great friends. I have many people. The list. If I could list everybody in all the bands that I work with locally, um, and professionally, in my other many times, throughout my career, the list would go on forever. I've been blessed. I have to say, I've been truly blessed by being able to work with some incredible people. Have had some incredible opportunities.
Jimmy, they've been blessed to work with you too, you know.
Oh, thank you, bud.
It's a symbiotic, synergistic relationship. True, right?
Yeah,
Isn't it? Isn't it symbiotic?
yeah. I mean, when you find a group of people that you really enjoy, I mean, yeah, you a lot of times it's hit or miss. Like you get some people that you just can't connect with.
The
For
chemistry might not be there, but the creative process keeps moving.
Yes, exactly. Now, for example, I've had a great run with House of Lords for 15 years, and we've done a lot of great shows. I've toured all over the world, places that I would have never seen in my life if I wasn't in that band. Japan, Tokyo. I played a lot of big places. Now joining Autograph, I'm playing all these great U.S. Festivals in the U.S. and I got to say, working with these guys, each and every one of them in that band are absolutely wonderful. We connected like instantly within one song. They gave me 3 songs to learn, but I learned the whole set. So when I went to LA for my audition, I was ready. I sang my parts. I do background vocals with them, and the singer Simon Daniels said he knew after one song that I was the guitar player, and we sounded like we had been playing together for years, and that made me feel good. We just like hit
Will
it
make
off.
me feel good and accept my invitation to come back for another time.
Oh my God! Anytime. I told you, I was more excited about this than you could ever imagine.
No, trust me, my friend. This is a thrill for me with a capital T.
No, we honest, Lich. This has been. I was waiting for this. Like as soon as Tracy called me about this, I was going with a Lich. Yes.
Oh man, but let me tell you something. As I was sitting down when he jet me a text and tell me that you wanted to do this and said you were looking forward to it. Let me tell you something, man. From that point, I was walking a half inch off the ground. Jimmy Bell, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, brother.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
And that is our conversation with Jimmy Bell, with our thanks for being here with us. On behalf of all of my colleagues here at On Deck Sound Studio, may your happiness increase always, in all ways, and please keep me in your thoughts.